What up, guys? Welcome to the Hype Mind. My name is Daniel, and this is Bear. And today we're talking about why children should question their elders. So before you come up with any conclusions, make sure you listen to what we have to say. First and foremost, right? We live in a very different world today, in a very different culture, where you have adults over here who say this, and adults over here who say the exact opposite. So for children who are blank slates, who are most susceptible to the influence of others, who do they trust? Who do they go to? Who do they rely on? And that's the big question. And so I think it's very important for especially children nowadays to become independent thinkers, to start thinking on their own, to start discerning who should I be listening to, who should I not be listening to. And that's why I think it's very important to start to learn to question your elders appropriately, right? Not in a rude way, but in a respectful way, but to start to kind of test, prod, tease a little bit, just a little bit, not aggressively or too specifically offend the other person. But I think we just do this as humans, as a kind of a survival mechanism. I use the example with a woman who is testing her man. It's called a shit test, where she's testing him for his strength. How reliable is he, right? Is he going to get defensive when I say this? Is he going to get emotional when I tease him? Same thing with, your boys, right? Kids just teasing each other, saying, okay, in
Guys in general.
it's telling you if you can rely on somebody. Am I going to be able to rely on this person when shit hits the fan, right? Are they able to, maintain emotional control? Because that's first and foremost the most important, because how can I trust somebody who goes off of their feelings and lets their feelings control their actions? Because when you tease them or test, right, what happens, you get a reaction. And depending on that reaction, if they act emotionally, right, off of their feelings, they are not as reliable as someone who remains cool, remains calm, who rely on their morals. Because what changes is your emotions change. I'll like something today, and tomorrow I won't. But my morals,
Right. And
I still follow along with my morals, my beliefs. How often do your beliefs change? Not so often.
interestingly enough, there's that, and that kind of helps you determine who you can trust, who you can look towards. And there's also the fact that you also want to question people just so that you can educate yourself, right? It's great to be guided in a direction that's good. And like Daniel's talking about, to know the direction and the person who's guiding you is the right direction and the right person to listen to. But there's also the fact that you want to understand how they got to that conclusion, why they're directing you there, why that's the conclusion they came to, why they're telling you to go that way. So
do they have that my
both.
best interest at heart? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it just something
And
they want?
well, do they have my best interest? And not even the best interest, it's additional on top of that. It's how did they get there? How did they learn to get there, right? It's you can have my best interest at heart, and I can still want to know why that's what you concluded to lead me to. What was your understanding? Because sometimes you have your own best interest at heart and you make mistakes. So why do I have to do things this way versus the other way? Even if I know I can trust you, like Daniel's talking about, even if I know you have my best interests at heart, I know you have your best interests at heart, being the person telling the younger person what to do. How do I why is it that that's what you concluded was the solution? Sometimes people don't understand why they make decisions, and they don't even realize the decisions they're making aren't good, even if they have your best interest in mind.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think the big, thing that's going on is, and that's still going on, is don't question your elders. Don't question your elders. Respect your elders. I think you should still respect your elders, right?
Right.
If you question them, respect them as a human, but don't Don't be afraid to ask why. Don't be afraid to push a little bit to see where they're coming from. And it's very different nowadays because the culture has changed. Because someone's going to say this, and someone else is going to say, "Don't listen to them." It's like, what?
Right. You're always going to
As
find different
as someone
opinions.
that hasn't experienced life, what do you do? Right? Who do you listen to? Who do you trust? Who do you rely on? And so, I think it's very different from the culture back then, where we lived in a more survival, I guess, world where it was like, yeah, maybe you grew up on a farm or something.
Certainty wasn't there all the time.
Yeah, you were just
Yeah.
you grew up hunting, and your father would say, "Hey, don't go over there. Right? There's quicksand. You're gonna die." And so, um, it's
Right. Very survival
yeah,
mode.
exactly. And it's like, yeah, you need
You
to
didn't know
listen
what to
to others.
depend on.
In that, like in that community, because usually lived in a community, it was like the way of thinking was the same, like basically similar to everybody else. Like there wasn't too much controversy between, like, yeah, as today.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. And the other thing that I would add on to that is when you're, how do you word this? That sometimes I think it gets misperceived, right? There is the fact that the world has changed a lot, and it's changed fast in the recent time period. Last 100 years we've gone from horse-drawn carriages to going to space.
Oh yeah, it's been rapid.
Yeah.
No,
So,
it's
and it's, yeah, exactly. It's
yeah.
been very fast, and it's definitely changed. But even then, I think even back then, no matter how far back in history you go, you also see the change from what it was to what it is now exists. But you also see something that they had in common, which was a misinterpretation, right? People would say you have to respect your elders, and that was it. But what did that mean? What does respecting your elders look like? Right? You can still respect your elders, listen to your elders, hear what they have to say, um, but you can still ask why. You can still, because asking why, assuming you're doing it with good intentions, is simply so you can understand how they concluded that. Right? Okay, 2 + 2 = 4. But how? I want to understand. Show me how if you take 2 pennies and add another 2 pennies, it now counts 1, 2, 3, 4, right? To put it very simply, you just want to understand so that you can go forward in the future and be able to do that on your own. So you don't need to rely on someone, right? Because that's what developing from childhood into adulthood is. That's what maturity and maturing at any age of your life is. It's learning how to do it on your own, like Daniel said in the beginning, becoming more independent. So it's good to know that the right decision is this, that these people have your best intentions in mind and that you can trust them. But it's even better to know how to get there on your own, how to understand how other people came to these conclusions so you can come to your own conclusions on your own. Wow, you have this opinion, and this is how you formulated this opinion, and this is the math behind it, or the psychology behind it, or the truth behind it. And someday you're not going to be here to guide me, but you're going to teach me how you came to that result. You're not just going to teach me the answer, you're going to show me how to get the answer. And so I think sometimes that gets misconstrued. Is traditionally people said you got to listen to your elders, but that what they didn't say was you have to listen to your elders, but you can ask them to teach you what they're telling you and how they got to what they're telling you.
Mm-hmm.
You can ask them
Right.
to help you understand it.
Right. That's super important, right? However, I think we live in a very different time where you have one elder saying this and one elder saying something else, the exact opposite. So you have to listen to one, but then you have to say no to the other. And so
Sure.
that's a big discerning process too.
Yeah, that's the mom and dad problem. Mom said I couldn't do this, and dad said I could do this. What do I do? Who do I listen to? Yeah, there's always opposing opinions,
And being
even in relationships as tight as your own family.
doing that. Right, right. And
Who do you listen to? Yeah,
think about this, Bear.
lost it.
It's we
Let me let me share a story.
we have like we're in like the world has changed a lot, right? And so I think then questioning your elders was more of a that the elders or who was your parent or who was your teacher was waiting for it, like would be able to handle it. Now I don't think so. And so today I can see it used as a this is the rule and that's it, instead of and what the question should be from the children is why? Why is that important that I should listen to my
Well, and you saw that
asking that
with
question?
women in the past, if a woman was told to do something, she did it, period. And it wasn't because of the popular narrative of white patriarchy or whatever. It was because women were told what your husband said went done. And so that was the person they looked up to for advice once they left their family. And the same thing with children. Children were told whatever is said by your elders goes, right? And so now society is telling you a different narrative, and the times have changed. And who do you listen to?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are so many opposing opinions out there, and so it can be overwhelming and confusing.
Right.
So
And
there
that could
are
be
differences.
and that's I'm just saying that isn't going to be encouraged to question your elders. That's not going to be encouraged because nobody wants to be humiliated by a child,
Right.
right? And
That's
so
true.
and I think in today we're not able to handle that. So it's
Or
easier
anybody
to
with less
accept somebody
experience,
else talking
not
to
even just a
me
child.
than a child. So it takes a lot of humility on the adults' part, and I think it is a problem for the adults, where we just shut them up instead of encouraging them to actually ask those questions. We say, "I'm right," and that's it, instead of saying, "Okay, let's talk about this. Let's work this out." Wait, why am I getting defensive over here? Like, what's going on? So there's a lot. There's a big push for that because especially with children, like I said, they're a clean slate, and you have a lot more power over them because they're much more susceptible to your influence.
Sure. Right. Yeah, that's true.
And then one other thing too is that with I guess the argument could be I shouldn't listen to my parents, right? My parents don't have my best interests in mind, and so that could be a discerning process too. But I think that it's always the best fallback is to listen to your parents,
Well,
because the best that
especially as you
they
get older,
they have they're much more likely to care about you the most compared
you
to other
have
adults in your
people
life. And I'll explain that in a second.
all over the place in your life as you get older. When you're young, you just have your parents. When you're a little older, you have your parents and your siblings. When you're even older, you have your parents, your siblings, your teachers. Then you get a little older, and now you have people at work. People who've worked there longer, people who own the business, people who are hiring you. Right. So now, as you get older, as you start to branch out in the world, you see more and more people, and you're like, okay, great. Everybody's got something to say. And worst of all, everybody's got a different opinion. So who do I listen to? Who do I turn to? Um, that's why I don't know if this is a great example, but that's why I kind of look at it as like a hierarchy. There's people you always prioritize. Like Daniel said, you always fall back on your parents if that's realistic. If you have parents, if they're good parents, they're trying their best. They're not like I guess like alcoholics or something worse, for
Mhm.
example.
Right. Yeah,
They,
I would say,
yeah.
oh yeah, I'd say of course if it's something that's causes injury or that's
Right. Sometimes they're not
threatening,
going to be the
yeah,
fallback, but
obviously.
generally, you always have basically this hierarchy of who to fall back on, and the first and foremost is your parents, right?
Mhm.
Because they're the
Right.
ones who love you the most.
Well, yeah,
You know?
exactly. They're taking care of, they're sacrificing for you. Think about
Yeah.
that. They have your mother gave birth to you. If you're still in the household, they're feeding you, right? They're giving
Yep.
you a place to stay. They're dealing with your bull crap
Through
because
your father's lineage.
yeah, right. And children go through their own moods and they get cranky and stuff like that. So they have to deal with that. So they they're much more likely to care about you than, let's say, a teacher who's actually getting paid to teach you.
Even if it doesn't seem like it.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. Because anybody can put on a face.
Well,
Anybody can
I
say,
don't. No, I don't even mean that. I'm not putting on a face. Sometimes your parents tell you something to do, and you're like, no, that's, you don't care about me. And you're like, no, we're telling you not to go to the baseball game, not because we hate you, but because you need to study for your test tomorrow in high school or whatever. So
Mhm.
it doesn't always seem like they want what's best for you because you have a different idea of what's best for you, even if you're still a blank slate. Like you're still, well, not a blank slate, but you're still maturing, obviously. So sometimes it doesn't always seem like your parents have the best thing in mind for you, but sometimes they see things you can't see.
Right. And they're there just like, still today, it's like you can touch the hot stove and get burnt. And so they say, don't touch the hot stove. And
Yeah.
it's
And
especially
you
those
sit there
situations where like they're there to protect you and they have their best interest in mind. And I'm just there was a few moments where I was actually astonished how like even parents who even actually people in general, but especially parents who aren't the best examples will still give genuinely good advice to their children. That's
right.
actually good, like helpful advice. And so your parents are very likely to have the out of anybody else your best interest at heart. And so I just got to go back to the fourth commandment: honor your father and mother. It's not honor all your elders. It's very specific: honor your father and mother until you're 18 and can discern on your own.
Well, actually, that one does it encompasses honor your elders. Ironically,
Interesting.
specifically,
Right. No, that's
yeah,
that's fine, but
it,
that's the thing. You can't honor your
you can't
elders
honor
because
everybody, right?
one person's going to say this, one person's going to say that. They're going to say the exact opposite thing. You have to, in a sense, you have to honor somebody, right? But you have to dishonor somebody else.
But that's the other important thing that you're kind of bringing to light is the fact that you can still respect and honor people without always doing what they're
Right?
telling
You
you.
can
You
disagree with
know,
somebody
yes,
exactly
yeah.
without being
Because
disrespectful.
when you get into the weeds on the fourth commandment, it encompasses anybody of authority over you. So like your boss. When you don't listen to your boss, you actually break the fourth commandment if you believe in the Ten Commandments, which is, a lot of people don't think that because they read what's on the page. But you know, you can respect everybody, still honoring your father and mother first and foremost, still, because obviously, like we said, they're kind of at the top of that hierarchy. Nobody loves you more than they do,
Well,
even if it doesn't look
it
like it.
would make sense because nobody sacrificed more.
Right. Yeah.
Teachers
Uh,
didn't sacrifice for you. Nobody else sacrificed for you. And so
but
they carry the reputation of your family too. And
well, that's true too.
does anybody else
Well,
do that? Yeah. So like it's more humiliating for your son to turn out or your daughter to turn out into a bum than for some teacher student to turn out into a bum.
that's true. But the thing is, you can still respect the opinions of multiple people, multiple elders, multiple seniors, or people senior to you, um, while not always, you know, doing everything they tell you to do, right? Because
For
you're not
sure.
every slave, you're not every servant. You have to make the at the end of the day, it's your life. You have to make the best decision, depending on what age you are. There's like Daniel pointed out, your parents, especially if you're living under their roof, you do have to respect their rules. Um,
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that
but
kind of it's in a way it kind of could be a um I guess transaction in the end. You get my
everything
respect
is
because you give
everything's a negotiation.
right. Right. Um but what was I gonna say that it's like everybody you give people the basic human respect and
Right.
you greet them, you say it doesn't mean you have to listen to them, doesn't mean you have to be their friends, but you say, hey, how are you, right? You can greet them, you can say, you could shake their hand, smile, be nice, say, hey, nice to meet you, like thanks for the thought. You don't have to listen to them, you don't have to agree with them, and you can discern, and you should discern
and like you said earlier, you know, obviously your parents have your best intentions in mind. So like there's varying degrees of respect. Just like everybody deserves basic respect where you can acknowledge them. You don't have to agree with them. Um, there's people a little higher than that. It's usually your elders, not always, but usually your elders who, because they have more life experience, they might know more than you. They probably do know more than you. So, you have to give them a little more respect, not more respect in the human side of things, but more respect in the you've been around longer, a different area of respect. And then there's like your parents who are on the top who deserve the most because they gave the most to you. Typically they've done, they've given all this time, all this energy, all this effort, this money, all this hard work. So they deserve the most respect in a bunch of different areas. But I got a story I want to share. You know, in work, I work with a lot of great guys, and a lot of times people will, one of my super seniors, someone who's senior to me in the job, will tell me what to do, right? And I won't always agree with it. Sometimes they'll be like, I would do it a different way, right? But at the end of the day, I'll I'll do what they ask me to do the way they ask me to do it. I can still ask them, why are you asking me to do it this way? I'm not saying you're wrong. Just tell me why you believe path A is the best way to accomplish this and not path B, because I think path B is better. They can tell me why, right? And I can, even if I still disagree after they tell me why, I can still do what they're directing me to do because at the end of the day, they're my supervisor. They they do probably know more than me. At the end of the day, I don't have that much to lose usually. As long as I don't think it's going to kill me doing path A, they're still paying me. I'm still going to make money. And if I go follow path A and I'm wrong, then I learn from it. They learn from it. They can see that path A doesn't actually work like they thought it did. And at the end of the day, everybody learns from the mistake if it turns out to be something bad. And if it turns out to be something good that could have been done more efficiently, whatever. No sweat off my back
Mm-hmm.
because I still got paid, the job got done, and it didn't become a dilemma when it really didn't need to be. It's a scenario where there are two, three, maybe 10 different ways to do the job. This is the one they were adamant I do it this specific way. Who cares? Just do it. It doesn't hurt you in a lot of cases.
Right. Well,
It could. It could.
what you're
Like
saying is you discerned that he's experienced and I can learn from him.
right. Well, and even if I think I know the right way to do it or a better way to do it, sometimes it doesn't matter. It's such a trivial thing. I work there. They're paying me no matter what. The job's going to get done no matter what. And if the job doesn't get done, then we learn from it. If I have to do the job 3 times, a different way each time, whatever. Now at least we know how to not go about it in the future. So it's like it's really not a bad thing because we actually just paid to weed out the worst ways to do a job sometimes. So, and sometimes there are going to be people who are going to tell you what to do and you shouldn't listen, and like we were talking about in the beginning, you have to, make that choice for yourself as you mature. A lot of times asking why do you want me to do it this way is the way to learn, how to trust people. But ultimately their actions, like we've talked about in the past on the show, is going to show you that. Is this someone who other people respect? Is this someone who does good for themselves, and by
Right.
taking their own
Do they
advice,
earn
they're
that respect?
successful?
Do they
Do they
earn
earn it?
respect?
Are their actions showing, that their own logic works, the way they live their life because they decide to do things certain ways? Is it working out for them? Because if it's working out for them, it'll probably work out for me, right? Like, you know, like your parents' situation.
Right. Yeah, and you discern, are they trustworthy? Are they reliable? Can I
Right.
trust them in making that decision? But I think it's
And
just
guiding me, giving
we
me
we
that
live in
advice.
a way different world to where like you know children, especially since they're clean slates, have to protect themselves and have to be able to discern now. And so I think this message for everybody too, to where it's like, who are you listening to? Who are you hanging out with? Are they trustworthy? Are they reliable? Have they earned respect in some sense?
Well, and see, when you say you have to look out for yourself, it depends on the age, because honestly, until you're 18, or until you're like, until you hit maturity on a basic level, it's your parents' job to look out for you, right? So as you develop beyond a certain age, you enter your teens, you enter your 20s, you do have to look out and how to become more independent, right? Which is where asking why helps so much. Asking how did you make that conclusion, so that you can make it in the future on your own, right? But as you get older, yes, you do need to be able to become more independent. So you do need to be able to make these choices for yourself. But there is a certain age where you are too young to make those choices on yourself, on your own. You don't know what's best for yourself. So in some cases, and that's where that hierarchy comes into play. In some cases, you have to trust and you have to listen to the authority figure, because you're in a
Test,
situation, huh?
and test, not in an invasive way, but in a
Right, in a respectful way.
respectful way. Yeah.
Yes, and
Exactly.
and that I really personally, I really do believe that test is understanding the logic behind it. You know, prodding and saying, "How did you get there? How did you get to that conclusion? Tell me, tell me, tell me." Right? And a lot of times people be like, "No, just do it." You'll be like, "No, no, no, I want to understand." And if they tell you, if people are willing to show the logic behind it, then it's probably something worth being proud of, right? If they're going to be honest about it, it's probably because it's inherently good, or they think that it was appropriate, right? If people try to not tell you stuff, that usually shows that there's some foul play there, some possibly not so solid decision making. Um, but yeah, yeah.
Dude, brother, I missed the lightning. It's gone. It is
But
gone.
beautiful,
It's beautiful over here.
artistic.
For everybody that doesn't know, it's illuminating the sky. All right. Anything else, Brother
Okay.
Bear?
No, I mean, I think we should take a sec to wrap it up. I would just say, I would say it's okay to question your elders. You do have to respect them. How much you respect them depends, right? Everybody deserves a basic level of human respect, no matter how much you think they don't. Um, but there's a reason that they've lived as long as they have, like that survival that Daniel was talking about earlier. They're still alive because they know something. So, but yeah, who can you trust? Make sure you're becoming more independent by learning how to make the decisions on your own, and by learning how to find people you can trust, so that they can guide you until you're capable of making decisions on your own and being directed on your own by yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it shouldn't. I think questioning your elders shouldn't be uh, demean. Is it the right word?
Demeaning,
Demean. Yeah. It
right?
it's
It
taught
right. It's not
appropriately. If I'm a parent, I'm going to teach my children how to question their elders appropriately, and that
right.
question. So
Respectfully, no.
yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, I feel like that's my job, and that's what I need to do to be to prepare them for the world and for life, even as a young child, who knows is going out in the world already, just seeing things through social media, whatever, teachers, other elders, other people that they interact with. So
Right.
thanks for watching the Hype Mind, and peace out.
Peace.